All right, guys, welcome back. Seems like it just started yesterday, but it's all over. Episode number 6, The Morrow from Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Michael and Athena are back. We're going to finish out this series strong, and I think so far we're all enjoying it. And the one thing that I enjoy more than actually watching this season is hearing that they're actually going to bring it back every single year, that they feel like they could do this on a yearly basis, because let's be honest, waiting a year and a half or sometimes 2 years for a season to restart, that's just too much. So I
Mhm.
don't know. Do you guys feel like you would rather have 8 45-minute episodes and a long break, or 6 short episodes and we'll see you next season? Michael?
I don't like the long breaks, the year and a half, the 2 year breaks of some of these cases. So yeah, I'll go with short episodes and a shorter break.
Athena?
I like longer episodes.
Uh,
I hate the break, but that's what the books are there for, to keep you in the gap in between.
yeah, Michael, you got plenty of time to read the books now. But
See?
okay, how about this? If we give you guys 45-minute episodes for 52 weeks in a row, you guys cool with that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. We're in charge now. HBO, you gotta listen to what we're saying here.
Do it.
All right, episode number 6, The Morrow. We open with Dunk basically dying next to a tree, and Sir Lionel Baratheon basically trying to recruit him to come back to Storm's End, which we've seen a little bit of House of the Dragons. Just it looks like a rainy, depressive place, which is kind of why we see that Sir Lionel is just happy to be out of the house. But it doesn't really seem like Dunk is interested. So let's take a look at Lionel and Dunk at the episode beginning next to a tree.
Full tournament.
So happy.
Shame it's all over. Home is it's brutally dull. Hey, you could come with me. Huh. Yeah, we'll hunt and hawk and sail, make merry. I'll sharpen that iron of yours so you don't make such a grand fool of yourself next time. You ever been to Tarth?
The man is
Huh?
dying, my lord.
What?
His wounds, they have mortified it. It's beyond my abilities.
Oh, the others fucking girl me. Beyond your... An itchy arsehole is beyond your abilities, my friend. Be gone, witch. Fuck off with you.
Yes, ma'am. At once.
I absolutely love him. And if we don't see him in season 2, I'm going to be so disappointed. But there's a lot to actually unpack there, because you see what I was talking about. He's not exactly happy to go back to Storm's End. And again, Michael, we are introduced to an opportunity where Dunk has a chance to go back with a great house. We even hear him talking about going to Tarth, which goes into what Athena was saying. Maybe there's some tie there to Brienne of Tarth, which, if you read the internet or the TikToks or something like that, you'll find out all the possible spoilers, which they haven't revealed or confirmed or anything like that yet. But I love his character. He's basically saying he's a shitmaster. You don't know what you're talking about, even though, you're designed basically to do exactly what you're doing. Get out of here. So, Michael, let's talk about this opening. And is this the last of Sir Lionel, do you think?
Yeah, I sure hope not. Also, he's a great character. He's always just upbeat. Yeah, right now Dunk is down. He's depressed. I mean, basically he's dying along this tree, and he's down. There's a moment right after that clip you posted there where Lionel has to remind Dunk, like, "Hey, we fought for you also. Like there was more of us. Like give us some credit or stand up. Do something." So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting way to start the final episode with Lionel.
Yeah, but it just goes to show you how close Dunk actually is to dying. I mean, if he's got wounds that are, quote, mortified, he's very, very close to the end of his limit. And like you talked about, Sir Lionel basically says, he stood behind that code where the Kingsguard could not fight him. And, he basically chickened out from actually taking the battle head on, which I don't think he did. I think he fought valiantly in that before he passed on, Baylor, that is. But then we go to the Targaryen funeral where Baylor is there. And I want to correct something last episode. I was talking about the armor. It wasn't Daemon's armor. Damien was in the fight, it was Valar's armor that Baylor was wearing. So Athena dropped the ball there with giving me the correct name. That's her fault, not mine. But Dunk is awkward in this moment, as we pretty much see him with any one-on-one confrontation. He goes over to Valar, and the first thing he can say is he fought valiantly. And then Valar brings up the question that Dunk is asking himself over and over again: why would the gods spare Dunk and take away a good person like Baylor? So, Athena, a lot happened in the last couple episodes, but do you think Dunk deserves to feel guilty? Or do you think he actually deserves to be happy? Because again, we've talked about him kind of teetering this gray area as far as, you want to be part of a house, but now this is what, his second or third opportunity to join a well-respected house and serve as a knight with an upgrade in training, an upgrade in armor, an upgrade in everything. But he's continuing to doubt himself. Do you think he feels, or do you think he deserves to feel this guilt?
I think logically, no, he really shouldn't. But I think emotionally, because of, I guess, just how he feels about what a knight should be. I think everything that happened, with him being, the, how do I put it? Like he believes in everything that's going on. So with the Battle of the Seven, in his mind, he's like, okay, the gods, like, they saved me, and why me? And so he's like eating himself up. So why him over, his friend? And he keeps repeating to himself. And I know, I don't know if it's so much he says it a few times or maybe once in the show, but he's constantly saying, like, he died for me. So logically, no. Emotionally, yes. And I think he's going to feel that very deeply for a very long time. And I think it's mostly because it changed his entire worldview. I think it almost cracks that religious side of him that kind of has this greater thought process. And I think later on we kind of know, we learn a little bit more. Actually, learn a lot more later on.
I'm connecting a lot of parallels between myself and Dunk. And so it's kind of like, do I deserve everything that I've had happen to me? And it's like, I feel like I'm destined for great things, but, it's just not happening right now. And I'm questioning, should I feel guilty, or should I feel, turned down on certain aspects? But it's very interesting to see how they're going to have this played out over the next few seasons. All right. So we saw Lionel is actually thrilled to be part of these festivities. He's depressed he has to go back, but there is one clear winner here in all of this, and that is Sir Raymond. Even though we find out he is a very awkward hugger and doesn't know when to let go, as he sees Dunk, gives him a big old hug, and then we find out he is now the Red Apple. So that's going to be interesting to see if that plays itself out, Michael, in the next few seasons. Red apples versus green apples. The houses are clearly divided. And then we get a glimpse of his pregnant wife, who we've already seen hanging out with some of these other lords and knights and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. But Raymond comes out clearly ahead, owns his own house now, and then has this beautiful lady who's just all about him. And I'm sure she's going to be faithful and loyal and wonderful. Dunk then gets summoned to see Prince Maekor, and once again, he's offered another great proposition. You come back, I will train you to be a knight. I will give you great armor and equipment, and we will basically make you what you're setting yourself out to be. Plus, you get to hang out with Egg. He gets to be your squire. Both men are kind of questioning whether or not the trial by 7 is worth it, and why Dunk is spared. He says they'll be punished by hearing whispers for the rest of their lives. Basically, Maekor is the one who hit the fatal blow on his brother. So now he is a kinslayer, and Dunk is the reason all of this pretty much went down. So Maekor doesn't believe that a stupid hedge knight's hand and foot is worth a prince, but Dunk offers the counter that maybe somewhere down the road, the kingdom is going to require my knight's foot and knight's hand to, make up for a prince's life. And Maker's like, yeah, I doubt it. But it's very interesting to see how this part kind of played itself out. Talk about, Raymond coming up there, Michael, and then the scene with Maekor and Dunk.
Yeah, the scene with Maekor and Dunk's interesting. Like you said, another opportunity for Dunk, which just leads me to still wonder. I'm still questioning what is it that Dunk is chasing? What is
Mhm.
he after? Where is he going? I don't even yet know really why he went to the fights to start, um, if he didn't want to take a position which he was offered multiple times. So yeah, quite interesting. But again, Dunk has a vision of what a knight's supposed to be, and I think he sees in these houses, you don't always get that,
Yeah, just it's not always roses. Um, and it's again a few parallels. I can relate to a lot of this stuff because it's like you finally get what you want. For me, when I moved out here to Vegas, I was kind of unemployed for a little bit, and I was, looking for this job, and I got this job, and I'm kind of like, it's not exactly what I cracked up to be, and living out in Vegas ain't everything I thought it would be. So it's, as Mish would tell me, new situation, new location, same problems.
Mhm.
And the guilt isn't going to help. Adding on a layer of basically having the death of a great person on your hands and your conscience. But Athena, what do you think about Dunk basically turning down another golden opportunity because he's sulking basically?
Yeah, he's definitely sulking, but I almost feel like it's the same thing of, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So he finally got to experience, like, okay, I want to be a knight. I'm true and true in myself. I have the values. But what he doesn't realize is the politics that comes with court. And that is a complete game changer. You can be the greatest person or the greatest whatever the case is, but the moment you go into court, that is totally different. And he realized that during his speech. I mean, he's looking around like, who else is going to, fight with me, who's going to fight alongside me against something that was truly morally wrong. And really just everyone pretty much staying quiet because almost every person in that crowd was some form of court. They had some kind of tie. They have no choice but to kind of do whatever it is that, the princes or whoever it is in power. I mean, Game of Thrones throughout the whole thing, it's who is in power at that moment, and the alliances shift every single episode. And so I think in his mind, being a man of honor, he's like, this is too much. This is too much drama. My life on the road is simpler. I can be a man of honor. I have no one that I have to, answer to. And I think he's still trying to find his way. He's got a big decision. He can either live in court for people that he doesn't believe are good, or he can just leave and kind of see where the road takes him as he, follows his journey, which is interesting. And then also kind of thinking back to Raymond, I found that interesting. So I know we talked about, initially in the last episode with him being, green, his sigil's a green apple. Well, eventually those two houses split, and we find that out, I think, in this episode a little bit more. And there's a part that we can talk about a little bit later when we get more towards the end of the episode, but something that we'll want to touch on that kind of makes
I feel
sense.
like that's setting up for a big war in another season or something that Dunk is going to be a part of. But we have a flashback, another one where Arlen is dying next to a tree, and he tells a story about a true knight and how they finish their story. George Martin, take notes. And Dunk asked him right there, Michael, why didn't you knight me? So I don't know. I've watched again this whole season. I still don't know. Michael, do you think that Sir Arlen dies right there on that spot and that's where he gets buried? Or do you think there was a moment after this where Dunk actually gets knighted?
I think there's going to be a moment after. I only think that partially because they almost showed us that, and we thought he died in that moment, in that sentence, in that conversation. Then he just woke himself back up out of what we thought was being dead. So I still have a feeling Dunk will get knighted in that same kind of scene, in that same moment almost. Because I do think that's kind of the moment right there where he was going to be buried, from what we saw at the very beginning. So.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an intentional I don't even know the right like the intentional tone for this scene where it almost didn't look the same as all the other flashbacks. It almost felt like it was more of Dunk like talking to a ghost or talking to himself and using Sir Arlen as one of the characters in his self-conversation. So I don't know. Maybe I just picked up on a little bit differently because I am suspicious if he actually got knighted or not. But it's very interesting to see how that's going to play out. Obviously, Athena already knows, so we're not going to go too spoiler with that, as I feel like that's going to be important in the future seasons. But next we go back to Raymond, and he is getting a birds and the bees. Actually, he's getting a bees lesson. There is no birds and the bees, so he's not going to actually figure out how his wife got pregnant before they were together. But they do find out that they follow the queen, and that's how the beesberries actually have their funerals, with a closed-in tent and a whole shit ton of bees. Apparently, that's smart in those days. I don't know. But anyway, basically, Damon talks to him about looking after Egg and convinces him by saying that Arian used to be a good lad too. And then basically living in the lifestyle of the castles and stuff like that got to him and made him become a cruel person. So then we cut Egg to a scene where Egg is trying to shave his head because he doesn't want to look like the Targaryens. And then it looks like he's about to approach his brother. Let's take a look at this clip, because this one got me. Dude, this kid is so good. He is so good. This scene got me because I felt the anger, I felt the fear, I felt everything as he's walking up to his brother in the bed, basically on a ventilator, trying to regain life and consciousness. And Egg is wanting to kill him right there in that moment. Then he sees that his dad is in the room with him. He looks over and he doesn't stop. It almost interprets that his dad is giving him permission to go through with killing Arian in that moment. And then he slowly starts moving a little bit more, and then Maekar comes over. And this is really the first time that we've seen, I guess, a couple soft moments out of Maekar, that we were led to believe he's this hard ass, this bad person. But I think that we see he is a caring father. Things aren't going his way. He wants the best for Egg. And once he puts his hands on Egg's shoulders, Egg just kind of comes back to life and sulks into him. So, Athena, talk about how this scene hit you here.
I thought it was super important because that really kind of shows what is going to happen with like Egg in his future. Did he learn enough from Dunk to morally know that, okay, this person is, you know, that he can't defend himself? Like, what's the honorable thing to do here? And in his rage of rage, he's like, I'm going to kill him. This guy torments me. He drives me crazy. He's a horrible brother. He probably thinks that Dunk is more of a brother to him, honestly, than anything. And it's super interesting. And I think it matters because at this point, it really determines what kind of future he's going to have as, you know, a ruler or anything, you know, along those lines. And he has to make a decision, you know, is he going to be someone who believes in justice, or is he going to be someone who wants revenge? So which route does he take? And so it's interesting, but also curious that had Maekar not been there to stop him, what that decision would have been. So it's almost like, I don't know, like what would it have been without him showing up is my question.
Is this part in the books?
Mm-hmm.
It is. Okay. Michael, as a father, how do you take this scene, and what do you think about Maekar's turn in a way?
Yeah, as a father, it's interesting because it's almost like for Maekar, you have kids, you know, they've got wealthy, they've got everything they want. It's almost like you can't mold them into the right person because they have so much stuff, right? And so by Arian, you know, becoming, you know, kind of spoiled and a brat, and like those things just kind of tend to happen. You mentioned earlier that where Damon was saying, oh yeah, Arian was a good lad too. you know, and it just went right into this scene basically right after that. And it's like, it's almost that Maker doesn't even have control of whether Egg would turn into an Aryan or not. You know, it's just part of the path, and so it's interesting. If Maker hadn't been there, you know, yeah,
Yeah,
we'd be probably
yeah.
watching a
We
different
heard
ending.
we heard him earlier, I guess. Whenever I think it was Dunk that asked Egg at one point, you know, do you know your father, or did you know your father? And Egg responded with, no, not really. And it's interesting that they've been there the entire time, but he doesn't have that close relationship with him until this moment. And I find it interesting how they filmed it, because I almost feel like Maker's telling him, I got you, you know, I got your back no matter what you decide. So if you want to go kill him, I got your back. If you want to, you know, need a second to like breathe for, you know, I got you there too. So I like how they filmed that scene. It was really good. Um,
Well, and you did hear him drop the knife too.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. He backed off it once he got his dad's, you know, touch on the shoulders there, which is very, very powerful. Dunk and Egg basically have a conversation, and actually I take it back. Dunk and Makor agreed to have another conversation where Dunk says, I'll take on Egg as my squire, but we're going to do it as my conditions, which is basically we're going to live under the trees. We're going to eat salt beef. We're going to live how I've lived, become a good person, because your family is shit and you've raised shitty sons, and we're not going to have that happen again. And then Makor is like, nah, that's not how Targaryens roll. You know, I do not give you permission. And then we see that Raymond is gifting Dunk back Sweetfoot, and it's kind of a nice little bookend for this, because Dunk promised Sweetfoot that he would buy him back after he wins. Technically, he won, but he didn't get any money out of it. And then he also does not latch onto any houses. So without this moment, I think that would have been the end for Sweetfoot. And let's be honest, man, she's a pretty horse, and she deserves to go live in an orchard where Raymond is going to go and basically give her all the apples that she wants for the rest of her life. So let's see. Dunk then pounds Sir Arlen's penny into the tree, which is a story that they kind of talked about with the penny tree. And now he heads off to who knows where. But then Egg shows up out of nowhere and says, my father has ordered me to go with you. We should explore the 9 kingdoms and find out there's 9 kingdoms instead of 7 kingdoms, which is also something that I find very, very funny. It almost feels like the directors and the producers and all that are kind of just taking as many jabs at George R. R. Martin as possible. And then they end with a touching moment where Sir Arlen basically goes down his own path in the tall grass, and then Dunk and Egg continue on down the road. And I find a little bit of interesting, shot selections here with the different levels of grass between Egg, Duncan, and Sir Arlen. Basically, I don't know if this is the last time we'll see Sir Arlen, but they go there. And then there's a post-credit scene, which we really haven't gotten to this point, where it's Makor basically looking for Egg. So we as a viewer are led to believe that Egg is given permission to go with Duncan, only to find out, nope, Makor says no. And again, it's a cliffhanger as far as what are the butterfly effects that are going to happen of what we learned in these 6 episodes. So Michael, I'm going to start with you, because I feel like Athena's got a lot to say about how the season went down and how it ended. But Michael, what do you think about this ending and the adventures of Dunk and Egg going forward?
Yeah, they left a lot of areas to tie things back together. And even just to back up a moment about Sweetfoot, right, going with Raymond, like there's a really good opportunity where they're, you know, Dunk's going to come back in with Sweetfoot in the future, and that's going to get tied back together. They didn't have to bring Sweetfoot back into the show. You know, like we all just would have let that go, no problem. But they did bring it back, and then Dunk's, you know, leaving Sweetfoot in the pasture. And so I feel like there's something coming back there. And then, yeah, with finding out, you know, maybe Dunk can be charged with kidnapping, you know, because we don't know. You know, Egg is now gone, and Makor apparently didn't know or didn't approve. So now they're going to have to send out a hunting party for Egg, looking for Egg, and try to capture Dunk. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I actually don't know if Double Jeopardy was invented yet. So, I mean, he's already been tried once for kidnapping. So I feel like he should be allowed to just kidnap now if he wants. But Athena, All right. The floor is yours as a book reader and a TV show watcher. Go ahead and cap up episode number 6 or say what you want to say without spoiling too much.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Need to make sure. So going back to the apple part. So I love that you learn about House Fossaway. So that's one of the things in Game of Thrones. You learn a snippet. Now at this point, they're already, 2 houses. And you don't know how that happens in the entirety of Game of Thrones until now. So I thought that was super cool, super interesting to see how all of that worked out. So you have Raymond who, and if you watch Game of Thrones, you know that his family comes from the Red Apple branch. And then his brother stays with Green. So originally when you had asked about the green apple and the red apple, I was like, oh no, Green, because that's technically sort of later with that split. But what's so interesting and so dramatic is when he gets the horse at the end and he's like, oh, do you like apples? He bites into a green apple and feeds that to the horse. And so that is such a powerful moment. And I think as seasons start coming up, we're going to really understand more of that backstory, which makes me so excited because there's so many characters that you're just like, but what brought you to this moment? Or how did these houses start feuding? And you learn so much about that early on and you get such history with some of these guys. I think that's really interesting. I think the
My
end
head
of this
immediately goes to typical Game of Thrones thought where now the green apple family is going to be fed to the horses. Like,
oh my
that's what I think was working. All right,
That's
sorry. Go ahead.
crazy. No, I think that's so funny. I think it's so cool though because it's almost like how you said, like that butterfly effect moment. So now Dunk has Egg, and now he's kind of training him the same way he was trained. And again, he's not 100% sure that he's a knight. This is a boy who is born and raised in Flea Bottom at, he knows the poorest parts of everything. And now he's training a prince who's obviously still young, but he has, the training, the education, he has all these things. And similarly to when you talked about the 9 kingdoms part, what's very interesting about that is, again, not super spoiler, especially if you watched Game of Thrones, talk about the 7 kingdoms and everything. When he talks about the 9 kingdoms, you can remember what areas technically refuse to be a part of the 7 kingdoms, which is that's why it's said that way. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a futuristic feel on, the potential of him becoming king and what that means in the future on him saying 9 kingdoms instead of 7, because he's like, no, let's go explore. And that sort of also brings you into another thought process on, how much does this little boy know? How much into politics is it? He obviously wants to learn about the people and, he's going to be this great person that you hear about later on, in all the different Game of Thrones bits. But it's interesting because he's traveling and the place that he specifically says he wants to go and see is also one of the places that says we are not a part of the 7 kingdoms. We are not a part of you guys. And they talk about that in Game of Thrones. And that's the first place he wants to go to. So it's like, what's coming? What is the future? What does he bring up? What is he going to start? Is he going to start something crazy? It's interesting.
Well, they're already filming it, to my understanding, so hopefully it's just around the corner. But let's go ahead and do our reviews real quick, and then I have one more question before we wrap things up. So, Michael, we'll start with you. How many bones are you giving episode 6 tomorrow?
Yeah, another really good episode. It just it didn't tie off a few things for me, which is good because we got more seasons coming. But some of these cliffhangers for me, just a little too much. I'm gonna stick with my path of a 4.
Okay. Athena, so this is where we're getting into a little bit more lore, I feel like. So I feel like you're a little bit more excited on this one. How many bones are you throwing at episode 6?
Shockingly, I'm going to give this one a 5 because I think it gives you lots of different directions here. So I'm excited.
Okay, so it teased us just enough to get a 5 out of Athena. 9 bones for episode number 6. I'm a little worried, though. I feel like we got at least one more season with young Egg and this phenomenal actor. I am a little bit worried, though, that they're going to pull a House of Dragons and do a time jump on us with him. And if they do that, how devastated are you guys going to be that we lose this young actor?
I would be so
I'll
sad.
be devastated. Yeah, me too. I was devastated in House of Dragons when they switched characters and times on. It took me a while to get back on board with that next season.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't feel like House of the Dragons got a fair opportunity with the writer's strike and everything that was happening. I mean, they had to do some things that they had to do, but I think with them filming every single year, I feel like we could probably stick around with this kid long enough. I don't know how the stories go. One big thing that I want to see answered, and I don't even know if I'm going to get it in next season, but I still don't believe Dunk has been knighted. And Athena, I'm not going to look at you because I don't want anything to get given away to me. But Michael, I think that if Dunk were to continue to do this path, and we got the hint from the fortune teller that Egg is going to become king, I feel like as a story would go, it would make more sense to have Egg knight Dunk for everything that he's done in the past. And again, I talked about the 4 pages for Dunk in the Tall, and it's all going to be embellished there by Egg. So I feel like he's just going to repay him. And I feel like that's something that we'll get maybe in like season 4 or 5. I don't know. That's just my vibe for it. Michael, I want to ask you though, and then we'll head out of here. What's one thing that you want to see in season 2? Again, you have no book knowledge. You're just kind of guessing and throwing things here. What's something you want to see in season 2?
Season 2, I want to see Dunk have some success. I want to see some things work out for him. I want to see him have some success traveling with Egg. And then, I'll go.
Okay. So we want Dunk to actually accept one of these offers that he's been given by some of these houses. Because I think he's had opportunities to have success, but he just hasn't taken it yet. Maybe he'll find it on his own. But that's it for us, guys. Season 1 in the books. Michael, Athena, I appreciate you guys joining me. I hope you guys have had as much fun as I had. I think this is interesting. I don't know if I'm going to read the books. I feel like this is kind of nice how it's coming at us.
Yeah.
And I feel like Athena's doing a good job of dropping us a little bit of tidbits, which makes it more interesting. But we'll see how things go. Again, guys, stay tuned to the Dog Pound. I believe Michael and Athena said that they're on board to come back for House of the Dragon. So whenever that airs, we'll probably do episodes. I know Michael and I are doing Survivor right now with Ryan and my kiddo. And I'm going to start reviewing some movies again. We're going to review The Bluff with myself and Jason Quigley, and they're going to be bringing sports betting and all types of fun stuff at you guys. So stay tuned to K9 Unit Productions on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Woo-hoo.
See you, Wally. See you, Athena.
Thank you.